Welcome to All Things Social Security. Enjoy your video.
Limitless says, hi, everyone. Hi, everyone is a CDR. Everyone is every case is lined up for a CDR generally. And here you get into the crux of it there, Limitless. What if one is 62 and their SSA report says CDR 7 years and it says a date that puts recipient as exactly. So that would be where you would never have your medical diary date be the cause of your CDR. Because, with the exception, again, let's say they suddenly have this cure for whatever ails you. This isn't going to happen, but, unicorn land. And, progress does get made. Just don't expect it. That would be potentially a reason why it might change. We don't see that, generally speaking, because medicine doesn't change that fast. Now, remember, there are other reasons for CDRs. You could start to work. Could trigger a CDR. So just if you're not doing any of the above, or if you're working and they know it and you don't change your duties, your hours, anything like that, then you should be good to go. But that's exactly the reason. So you did have a diary date. It's almost like that. I think they set the diary date because, again, what if they change the rules on diary dates? Let's say suddenly the SSA gets wealthy and can do that. I'm not seeing it happening, but they could change the diary dates. Certain kind of impairment now has a 4-year diary date instead of if there is such a thing, instead of a 7, because they have all the therapies have been going so well. Now people are recovered from that, whatever it is, dying much better. I mean, think of it along these lines. People used to be really, really disabled when they lost a leg or 2 legs. I think now you're still disabled with 2 legs, but 1 leg. And a lot of people didn't have prosthetics. They'd be like in a wheelchair. And then prosthetics became really good. And now losing a leg is not necessarily going to disable you from all jobs. I have seen, however, in my experience, every time I've taken one of these cases, which is not a lot, obviously, not for the leg anyway, prosthetics with some people, I mean, most people would be thrilled to have a great prosthetic and be able to get back to work. That's the nature of humans, right? Except those that have been taught to the contrary. But sometimes those prosthetics cause some people have trouble, their limbs have trouble adjusting to the prosthetic. It gets really sore, it's really troublesome. They don't walk on it well, it hurts. Some people have that phantom pain after the loss of a limb. It's unrelenting. I've also seen people get chronic regional pain syndrome in an area subsequent to an amputation or a limb loss. That's such a weird, complicated disorder, but it's really horrible. So, it could definitely be one way or the other, but the point being prosthetics have come a long way. And so what was disabling forever is no longer necessarily disabling forever. Jennifer, hi, Stephanie. My hearing went really well. Awesome. According to Jonathan. All right. Awesome, Jonathan. Congratulations, I hope. The VE only asked, you mean the judge asked the VE only 2 questions and both were no jobs. That sounds exactly like we were hoping and planning, right? It does, Jen. So hopefully, I feel very positive. I felt kind of positive about your case from what you shared before that, but this kind of is extra fodder for that hopeful feeling, right? And Jonathan knows. I mean, 99% of the time, right? MD says, what is my general time frame with examiner getting requests and sending those 2 forms out in November and December? That doesn't affect your time frame at all. Why would that be, you ask? Sometimes the adjudicator is no longer your adjudicator, and then a new one comes on, they're waiting for a new one, and then you gotta wait. So the fact that you got one is very good. Most likely he's gonna be on the case until he makes a determination. There's no general time frame anymore, in my opinion, because, well, maybe there's starting to become one. I mean, it's definitely getting shorter once you get a DDS compared to an adjudicator. I feel like I'm seeing results in 4 months, 5 months. So that's assuming you timely get your function report out, work history report. Yeah, so look at your medical records if your doctors are fast about it. Everything's getting faster also because they are now implementing, when you've sent your 827 authorization in, they have arrangements with so many major health providers across the country. And they're working really hard to bring on more so that when they have your valid authorization, they can get them auto right from the company without having to send a letter, print it, stick it in an envelope, hope it gets there through US mail, etc., and then expect it same way back. So now they can do it's called a HITMER. That's what I call it anyway. If it's HITMER, wouldn't you? They can do a HITMER for so many records and they get it same day. So that really speeds up the process. I don't know why they weren't doing that before as much. There's so many things that are going on that are really getting utilized a lot more. When they did exist before, they just weren't really seeking to push them. I don't know why. Hey, Freddie Mejia, can I get approved without seeing the judge? Waiting for hearing. There's something called an OTR, on the record review, where the judge, in theory, they like to have a quick review when they first get your case, have an attorney advisor look at it and see if you could win based on what was at some point before hearing anyway. And yeah, sometimes we get those, which is really nice. Some people aren't aware of this. You can actually, I don't recommend it. I totally don't recommend it. But you can, when you fill out your appeal for hearing form, it says, do you want to appear for the hearing or just have it go on the record? And you could, someone who doesn't even want the hearing can say, I don't want to be heard. Just look at the paperwork. I'll get you more paperwork and more medical records as time goes on and just do it on that. You can do that. I would never do that with my clients, but it's possible. I mean, if they insisted, I guess I would, but it wouldn't be my advice. I mean, the fact that you're going to a hearing, if the judge doesn't make an OTR beforehand, sua sponte on their own, they're saying your case is not a slam dunk. At least not with the extra thing of him getting to eyeball you, talk to you, ask you a couple questions that are not clear, and maybe get a sense of your credibility. Kevin's in the house. Kevin Johnson. Hearing is this Friday. Is that Kevin from Tennessee? 10 a.m. ALJ is 58% approval rate. I'm so nervous. It's not bad. Remember, you worked up your case and did a lot of medical treatment, right? If not treatment, I know people get old, we're like, there's nothing they can do. I can't treat for it. Like, you follow up and you follow up and you follow up and you report your symptoms and you get followed up and get exams as much as you can. It might not be treatment, but it's follow up that shows conditions the same or worse. If you don't go, then there's no indication of that. And so then why would anything change from the previous decision? If you're just saying it's all the same. You denied me on this before, so I don't know why you would expect a different result second time around. What do they call that? When you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result? Wasn't that the definition of insanity or something like that? Anyway, I think 58% approval is decent. I've seen a lot worse.